Hello again. I am Walt, and today our guest comes from the makers of YiHi. It is the YiHi SX Mini SL class. So buckle in. This one might take a minute or come back when you got a minute. There's a bit to go over on this one. So let's get going. Okay, so getting right down to it. It comes with the normal accessories. It comes with a box and a little box inside the box, and inside the little box is a USB cable, and it has an operator's manual, and it has a few different cards in there, warranty card, etc., quality control. Absolutely just the normal stuff. The mod itself, okay, here we go. It is round, a lot like a mech mod might be, a tube mod might be. You can see you've got knurling on the top, knurling on the bottom, a beveled edge on the top and the bottom. This is just one finish. There are a number of different finishes that it comes in, and you can see the general aesthetic that they're going for. And they basically mounted the PCB, the chipset, inside of an enclosure that is mounted to the side. And it is mounted to the side with these two fasteners, top and bottom. On the front you've got the fire button, you've got the screen, the color screen, you've got a joystick, which we've seen on a few YiHi devices lately, and we've got a USB port there at the bottom. Looking at the top, you see our 510 connector. It's a little blurry, but I guess regardless, it's coated and it is spring loaded. As I understand it, the first one's out. This top actually unscrewed. This one does not. That is solid on there. Okay. Going to the bottom, we have some venting. We've got a little bit of a design on the bottom. Very much like the design on the top. We have got the fact that it's the SL class and a little bit of verbiage on the bottom of this piece. And this unscrews. The threads in here aren't the very best. Okay, I looked at them under a loop, and they're a little rough, they're a little rugged, but they're definitely solid. They're done well. They aren't going to fail, anything of that nature. The bottom cap itself is the negative contact, so the outside of this mod, okay, is the negative contact for the whole mod. I've got a 21700 in there right now. It takes 21700s. It takes 2700s. And someplace, I don't know where I put it, there's a little sleeve. It's an ordinary looking sleeve anyway, where you can use an 18650 inside here as well. All of them work. The 21700 by far gives me the best battery life. I've been enjoying that quite a bit. It really makes this an exceptional single battery mod, just in regard to how long the battery will last. Okay, I take a little break. I'm going to readjust the focus. I want to show you something else on here. Be right back. Okay, this is about as close as I can get it and still get enough light on it, but what I wanted to show you was the finish, okay, on that enclosure for the PCB. It's just a little rugged, if you can see that. Okay, there's a little gap there. I wish I could get more light on it. I apologize. I just can't get everything all at once here. But yeah, you can see that there's a gap in there, hopefully, and hopefully you can also see that the machining on it, in my humble opinion anyway, could be just a little bit better. Now down the sides where it mates up on the side of the mod, it's fine. It does a real nice job along there. But on the bottom again, okay, you can see where it takes on the general shape of what it's forming around, okay, but not real precise. Not a lot of precision you hear in milling that out. A little better view of the top there, a little more in focus. So just wanted to show that as best I could. It's a little different. So I'll change the lighting and we'll take a look at the menu. Okay, it really is a pretty simple menu system. 5 clicks on and 5 clicks off. 3 clicks will put it into lock or standby. Okay, we have a joystick. You press the joystick straight in and it should be doing something, and it isn't doing anything. Okay, and your major parameter there, the joules at the moment, okay, will turn red. Then you can push up or down and you can change the setting for the joules. You can press it again, and that, by the way, is for temperature control. You press it again and you'll have the degrees, the temperature, and you can adjust that up and down. You press it again and you'll have the watts. Now you're in wattage mode. Okay, and you jump back to joules for whatever reason. 50 watts. I must have pressed down instead of up. It's easy to do with this thing. Okay, so here it's there we go. You're getting your watts changed around. So I'll press it again. Okay, and around it goes. So now you can see we're into it moved down to the 316 there. Well, oh my, there we go. Back in white. Okay, so now you can see where it moved into the 316 in the bottom, and now it says TCR. I'm moving the stick up and down. Now it says nickel. Now it says titanium. Now it's back to 316. It takes a little getting used to, but this is where you circle around and you choose your the coil, the metal of the coil that you want to use. So I'll hit enter on that. I'll hit enter up here, and of course it says check atomizer because I don't have one on, but that'll get everything locked down. Okay, here we go. I move the joystick to the right and you can see M1, M2, M3, M4, and M5. Those are our memory positions. They have 5 of them for temperature control and 5 of them for variable wattage. So you just go to each one, you set it up, you use it. The next time you go back, it'll be exactly where you left it. Now we can go the other direction, and you can see it on the bottom. It says powerful, powerful plus, SXQ, S1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, eco mode, economy mode, soft, and then back to standard. These are all different preheats for the most part, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we get into the graphs. But for the most part, they are just that, just all different preheats. Up here you show how many joules has been used, and we can talk about that a little bit more too. This is the resistance that's currently on there. To set the resistance for this device that's currently on there, you put the addy onto it. You press and hold the joystick and it'll read, okay, that resistance. Once it's read that resistance, it locks it in, and that also locks it for temperature control. Once it's read, that's its baseline reading and it's done. You can also, if you want, hold that down, take a reading. You can make fine adjustments to it. It really should read correctly, and this does a pretty damn good job of that, but you can make fine corrections to it if you want to. So out of the change mode, pull it down, and it goes into bypass, and right there you'll get the voltage on the battery off of it, and it'll act somewhat like a mech mod if you want to use that. You can hold it down for half a fervor again, and you're back up to there. So, but you do have to be out of adjustment mode when you do that, or else it'll try to adjust something in there, as we just saw. So it's a little bit of something different to get used to, that's for sure. It's not a standardized menu system, but it really isn't that difficult. There aren't that many things to remember. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna press this a couple times. There's 44.8, 40. I like 45 joules. Press it again. I like 425. Okay, I'm into 316. Stainless steel. Get a new read on the on the atomizer, and I'm good to go. Okay, so that's the navigation. Next up, we'll get a few charts and take a peek at those. Back again already. I made an oops. There's a couple things that I didn't make mention of. One thing that you can do with this is press it 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you get a sub-menu here. You can press the joystick in on top of the system off and it'll turn the thing off completely. Manual TCR, you can press it in, you can adjust the TCR. And then on the standby time, you can press that and you can adjust how much standby time you want before the screen turns off. And I'll press it to the left and we get back into the main menu. We're not adjusting anything, nothing's highlighted. Okay, I'm going to push it over and hold it and it'll go into novice mode. And with that mode, you can change the wattage by pressing in the joystick and pushing up or down. Confirming it by hitting the power button, and that's it. That's all you can do with this mod in novice mode, which is kind of nice if you just want to use it for a variable wattage mode. Press it over and hold it again, and you go back into the advanced user mode where you can change it around and go into temperature control if you so desire. Moving right along, our first test is in variable wattage mode. The mod is set for 100 watts, and the true resistance as per a milliohm meter is 0.18 ohms. The mod is reading that resistance as 0.13 ohms. It is delivering 3.48 volts to the Addy, and it is achieving 94 watts of power. Rise time is essentially 0. I mean, it's fast. Look in the very beginning, there's a little bit of a dip for around 50-60 milliseconds, but nothing consequential. A real nice flat DC signal. Test number 2, variable wattage once more, 100 watts, true resistance 0.27, mod reads that as 0.26. Here we have 5.24 volts delivered, so the mod is starting to boost already, and we're achieving 106 watts. Rise time again is about 0. Very similar curve that we saw last time. Now you can see that it's thickened a little bit at the top. Looks like a little bit of noise there. We're going to talk about that in a future slide just a little bit more, but safe to say it's providing a good solid 106 watts to that Addy. Next test, variable wattage again, 100 watts again. Now the resistance, the true resistance, 0.53, read as 0.51 ohms. And the voltage delivered is 7.4 volts. Here we're boosting quite a bit. And the power achieved is 107 watts. Rise time again very fast. Looking at the top, you can see it's a flat line, but it is again blooming. And like I say, we'll talk about this, but again, safe to say it's supplying a good solid 107 watts to that Addy at this point. On this one, we're looking at variable wattage still. I turned down the power to 50 watts, and I added a setting here, the boost setting, and that's at standard. Again, the same resistance, 0.53 ohms, and it's reading 0.51. I guess I don't need to say that. Voltage delivered is 5.28 volts, and it is achieving 55 watts with a very fast rise time. Again, I've added another dimension, and that's the boost setting being standard. Same test again, except for now we're at a boost setting of powerful, and you can see that it is pushing 70 watts. And I do want to mention a caveat here. The scale that I'm using is 50 milliseconds per each one of those squares on there. And so this is less than a second that you're seeing. So it doesn't continue at 70 watts throughout the whole vape. This is just that preheat boost that it gives it, and it will give it out at 70 watts. Same test again, this one at Powerful Plus, and the most important thing to see here, actually probably two things. One, the voltage delivered is 6.2 volts, so we're boosting. And then the other thing is that it is putting out 75 watts for that preheat. And again, this is less than a second, so this is the preheat only. Notice that the DC signal is looking a little bit noisy. Again, we're going to talk about that in half a second. It is boosting. Same test again, except for this is in Econo. And this is beyond my comprehension. In Econo, it clamps it down to 12 watts. So, if you want a 12 watt vape, pick Econo. I'm going to leave it at that. And the last in the series of preheat options. This one is set to soft. Same test again. 4.8 volts delivered, and we're putting out 45 watts. Last resistance to check in variable wattage mode, 100 watts. True resistance 1.03 ohms. Mod reads it as 0.99 ohms. Voltage delivered is 10.2 volts. That's an incredible boost off of a 4.2 volt battery. And the power achieved is 99 watts. Again, at the top you can see some blooming, and again we're going to talk about that. Okay, so finally I'll make good on my promise to talk about that, as it were. What you can see at the very top of this thing, it says M10 microseconds. So each one of those divisions is 10 microseconds, 10 millionth of a second. And what you can see on the graph there is basically the AC override. That's a residual that was not filtered off, okay, from their boost technology. And as I put on there, that's at about 200 kilohertz, a very, very fast waveform. So there are actually some good reasons for doing this. Has to do with efficiency as well as cost. But that is just not something that is going to affect the quality of a vape. What you see there, the fact that they did not filter that off of the top, and they actually gained a little from doing that. So that's what the noise is. It's deliberate. Okay, here we go in TC, temperature control. I set the power setting for 45 joules. The true resistance was about 0.42 ohms. Obviously, we know that's a dynamic resistance. The mod read that as 0.42 ohms, cold, and the voltage delivered to it was 4.8 volts. So the power achieved at max was 39 volts. The rise time was about 20 milliseconds, a little bit slower than variable wattage. Now, note here that the pulse off time is somewhere between 2 and 3 milliseconds. I noted this because I had a question on a forum. A gentleman, in the form of a statement, said, well, that can't be good because, pulsing it on and off, we're going to feel that. The thought here is, according to science anyway, is that you can't feel a 2 to 3 millisecond gap in power to a coil, because a coil responds much slower as far as how it changes temperature in regard to the amount of current being pumped through it. Now, will I say that it's impossible for the human being to feel this? I'll never say anything like that. I helped develop a cytopathology instrument once where science said that these folks could never, ever see, okay, the speed at which we sampled. And to their trained eye, it drove them absolutely nuts. It chattered all over hell. So is it possible to feel this? I suppose so, but I sure can't. It feels very, very smooth to me just because those off times are just so fast. Okay, and here's our last slide, another TC, this time set for 65 joules, same resistances. The voltage delivered was a little higher, 4.92 volts, and the power achieved at max was 57 watts. A little bit more of a rise time. Okay, the pulse time is still the same. You can see though that the pulses are more often. We're hitting it a little harder in the very beginning, heating up that coil a little bit faster, a little bit quicker ramp time because of that. And then of course it's trying to cool it back down a little bit more aggressively, but not by increasing the size of the depletion areas, okay, just by making them more frequent. The mod was set to 425 degrees Fahrenheit, and it achieved 430. Now, one other question that I got, the whole joules thing, what are they talking about? As we know, joules are watts over time. So, for example, if you provide 20 watts for 3 seconds, you take that 20 times the 3, and you have provided a total of 60 joules. This is not how YiHi is using this. Okay, YiHi is also not exactly hitting the power set, if I can call it that. In other words, it's 65 joules, so if we were to just say that 65 watts, well, it's hitting it with 57 watts, so it isn't quite hitting it with that much power. So to get into the mind of YiHi and what the hell they are calling a Joule, I'm reticent to say. But I think it is safe to say you can treat them as if you were just setting available wattages, and it comes real close. I think that's functionally, okay, a reasonable way to approach this, because it definitely isn't talking about joules in the strictest sense. It's not power applied over time. Okay, so here we are again. Talk about it. I bought this mod. The price was originally around, I think, 175, 180, somewhere around there. It's come down to just under 140 USD. And again, it's one that I probably not going to be a totally unbiased review. I like it. I like the feel of it. I like a round mod. I like the feel of it. It's the right size for my huge hand. It fits real nice. The casing around the PCB is just rounded and chamfered enough, okay, so that it feels very comfortable to me. I like it sitting on the table and looking at it. I like the way it vapes. I use both wattage and temperature control. The wattage, obviously, this will put out whatever you want it to. It's pretty amazing in that regard. And the temperature control vape, to me, is a very nice, smooth, even temperature control vape. Holds that temperature real nice. I fired and a piece of cotton for, until it was almost completely dry, and it never scorched the cotton. So you've got, real good dry hit protection in there as well. The battery life on this thing, in comparison to what we have seen in the past with 18650s, is very, very nice. Especially in my case, I use about a half ohm resistance in my Addies, and man, that just lasts a real long time for one battery. I'm really enjoying that a lot. The menu system, until you get used to it, it's a little confusing, and you can, pushing that little joystick in, you can kind of push it down instead of directly in or the side or whatever, so it can be a little clumsy, but it isn't that difficult to use in reality. Just a few things to get used to, and it's really not all that bad. I think I can say that a YiHi is a fairly high-end mod for a manufactured mod, for mass-produced mod. This particular one, there are, like I say, a couple disappointments in it. Some of the machining on the threading. It seems like that could have been a little bit better. Some of the machining up around this case on the top and the bottom, it just seems like it could be a little bit better. I mean, you really got to get your eye in there close and really scrutinize it, but it has that potential to be just a little bit better than what it is, in my humble opinion. Let's see, what else can I say about it? Very accurate, obviously. It's a little bit off on some of the resistances, but as compared to other mods and whatnot, it is very accurate. I mentioned the joule counter. Just as with the joules, okay, that I'm somewhat reticent to try to get into the mind of YiHi to figure out why they call that joules and where they're going with all that. That joule counter is the same way. I've taken a few puffs on this and watched the joule counter, watch it increment, and no way, okay, is that correct for reading. It says that a vape is like 800 joules or something. I don't know. That's just bizarre to me. The other thing that I showed you and haven't really talked about, the SXI software. If you want to get into that with this, I'm just going to say be prepared to have a lot of patience. I had a heck of a time with it. I finally downloaded the most current SXI software, got it to run on my computer. I had to take the battery out of this thing, okay, for it to install the driver. When it installed the driver, it went for a full 5 minutes. Windows timed out. It said, "Oh, sorry, we got to abort now." But when I turned it back on, I'm going to give it another try, right? It had installed it. So, okay, fine. I got into the SXI. What I was interested there was a variable temperature curve. What I wanted to do was to see if I could get anything close to a replay manually, okay, by building a temperature curve. And I could not get that to work. When I loaded it up in this thing, I got a message that said no liquid. Where do you go with that? At that point I just gave up, to be honest. So does it work? Doesn't it work? I don't know. I think it's a function of how much patience you've got to play with this thing. Not impressed as far as myself. Not impressed a bit. I didn't try it with the variable wattage curves. Not interested in that necessarily. There is already an upgrade out for this. I guess on some models, mine is not exhibiting this problem, but I guess on some of the models it'll say, intermittently it'll say it's a short, okay, on the Addy, and or there'll be a problem with the screen going out in the middle of a vape, and that is fixed. So again, if you get one and it exhibits that problem, and if you can get the SXI software working, and like I say, I recommend going and getting the latest and the greatest. Oh God, I wish I could remember what it was, something like 2.8 to 0.3 SXI software, and then have it load in the driver with the battery out of this thing, okay. You may be able to apply that patch or that update and get the thing fixed up. So with all that, what do I say to try to encapsulate it, or to try to have a conclusion? I guess I'm just not gonna. I'm just gonna leave all that data with you. That's the mod. That's how it acts. That's it in its current state. So yeah, I mean, what can I say? A bit of a fool, I guess, for YiHi. I like it. Yeah, it's just a good vape. I got it on temperature control, 425 degrees, with 45 joules applied, and I just enjoy that vape. It's a real sweet vape. So I'm gonna let you go. Thanks for watching. Catch you around next time. Any questions, obviously, leave a comment, and I'll do the best I can to research whatever and or tell you I don't know. So thanks again. Bye.